Literally everyone listen to this. This is the number one mistake that I see entrepreneurs make, that I made growing up. So please do not do this because it is incredibly painful and it takes so long to get out of. So please do not do this. So I was talking to this entrepreneur and I said, you have 3 businesses and you've got 3 different product lines in each of those businesses. And I'll bet you right now that 80% of your revenue comes from just 20% of that stuff. Prettis Principle, nothing crazy here. And he looked at all of his numbers. He was like, yeah, I guess this is really the main thing. And I was like, why did you do all these other things? And he said, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time. And it just felt like there was just extra money sitting there on the table that we should just grab. Here's what's crazy. The extra money that's sitting there on the table is the money that distracts you from the main game. I like to use this principle called the woman in the red dress. So if you've seen The Matrix, right, which is my favorite movie of all time, Morpheus is explaining to Neo that anybody in the Matrix could be an agent, right? So there's a woman in the red dress who walks by and then all of a sudden he turns back around and it's an agent, right? And I like to use that analogy because the woman in the red dress is the distractions that we use, the easy money that's sitting there on the sideline. So I had a conversation with an entrepreneur in the digital marketing space doing about 4 or 5 million a year. And he said, I think I want to do general business coaching because I've got all these people who are asking me for general business coaching. And I was like, why on earth would you do that? And he's like, well, I mean, they're asking, I'm just turning money down. And I was like, that's the point. That is the point of a strategy. A strategy is learning when to say no. And so I said, hold on for a second before you do this, right? You have your business right now. And because it's hard for you to grow it, you're going to choose to distract yourself from something that's going to give you an easy win, which gives you that nice dopamine hit. Literally everyone listen to this. This is the number one mistake that I see entrepreneurs make, that I made growing up. So please do not do this because it is incredibly painful and it takes so long to get out of. So please do not do this. All right. What they do is that the thing they have becomes hard because they reach a limitation either on their beliefs, their skills, or their character traits. And so as a result of that limitation on the ladder that they've built for themselves with beliefs on one side, character traits on the other, and skills as the middle rungs that they have to grab, because you have to have all 3 in order to grab the next rung, right? They have those aspects and they hit a level, and what they do is they see another ladder next to them that has some rungs already built because they have those things, and they just jump onto that ladder. But then they climb and then they reach another pinnacle that's still not above their first ladder's limit, right? Of skills, character traits, and beliefs. And so what happens is they make this jump. And so I was going back to this entrepreneur and I was like, hey man, so could you imagine a world? How easy would it be for you if you just eliminated everything in your business and all you had to do is grow this one thing? I said, how easy would that be? And he was like, dude, that would be easy as hell. He's like, 80% of my time is dealing with all these other things and the operational drag and complexity around, these other teams and blah, 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 blah. I was like, right. So why don't you do that? And so when I come into most businesses, most of the times I get the entrepreneur to do less. I get the business to do fewer things because you can write this down, everyone. Simple scales, fancy fails. You can use that. You can take it to the bank. Uncle Hermosi. All right. Mosey Nation. That's one of our tenets. All right. Simple scales, fancy fails. And if you got a fancy business, I'll tell you the richest guys in the world have simple ass businesses, and they have the character traits to see that woman in the red dress walk by and say, not today, Nancy. Not today. I'm good. You're not gonna seduce me today into some quick money that's gonna take me away from the long-term goal. That's what strategy is. It's learning to say no. It's learning to say no because you know that your marriage in the long term is gonna get you higher returns than the short-term quick fix, right? And that's a character trait that you have to develop. And here's what's crazy. The higher up in business you go, the higher up that ladder that you climb, the sexier the woman in the red dress looks like. The sexier the seduction appears. The sexier the temptation appears. Because right now, if someone were to come to me and say, let's say, or let's just say that you're making $1 million a year, all right? In your business, let's say you're netting $250,000, whatever, all right? Just as a hypothetical example. If someone came to you right now and said, dude, I can help you make an extra $1,000 a month, you'd be like, I'm good, no thanks, right? But if someone came to you and said, hey man, I can help you make an extra $50,000 a month, you might be tempted by that, right? Or maybe an extra $100,000 a month. You might be tempted by that, right? But the reality is that it's just a woman in the red dress. It's Agent Smith hiding, pretending to be this thing that's going to give you this short-term win When in reality, all it's going to do is distract you from the long-term success that you're trying to have. Because if you just match the market and you just do the one thing over and over again, if you just repeat successful actions, if you have aggressive patience, if you do the boring work and you let it compound and you let compounding happen for you and with you instead of against you, and you use time as an asset instead of a liability, instead of being in a rush all the time, you actually use patience as a lever on your success. Use time as an asset that works for you instead of against you. And if you can do those things, you'll be unreasonably successful. But it's because you took decisions, you made decisions, you had character traits that were unreasonable and uncommon, right? Uncommon success is not because it's complex, it's because it's hard. And it's hard not because it's complicated, it's hard because it's so simple, no one does it. We let our humanity and our irrationality and our need for immediate short-term wins get in the way of what our long-term strategy is. And I'll say this again, strategy is knowing what you say no to, not what you say yes to. If you think about who you serve, who your avatar is, what you help them do, you get a lot more strength in knowing what you don't do. You have to turn money down. You know how much money I turn down every day? Like I literally get a DM, I probably get 2 DMs a day saying, hey man, I'll pay you 10 grand for an hour of time. I'm just like, dude, I just don't, it's just not, I can't say yes to that. It's just distracting to me to do what I'm trying to do. And the thing is that woman in the red dress, the higher up you become, the more sexy she becomes. And one of the biggest, the mistakes I've made many of these mistakes. I think I started my second business too early. I started Prestige Labs, our supplement company, too early, and I think I suffered for that. I think it basically flatlined our growth for 2 years because of that, and it took me to develop all these other character traits that I had to do instead to learn how to actually, I went from running one business to running 2 businesses. And I'll just give you this quick tidbit if you're listening to this. You might be thinking, well, Alex, how do you have these women in the red dress? Because you now have, 6, 7, whatever. We have a lot in our portfolio now. How do you reconcile that? Well, now for me, the portfolio is the one thing. My portfolio is the one thing. And that's kind of the overarching thing for me now, is that I did this out of sequence. And so please don't make this mistake. You can do whatever you want. But like for me, this was a mistake I made, is that if you're running a business, and here's how you define running a business. If the business does not grow without you spending less than 5 hours a week on it for 6 straight months, and you never have to jump back in, that is when you have transitioned from CEO to owner. All right. And right now, FYI, if you don't have to do anything, you're not part of the fulfillment, right? But you're still CEO. If you're still CEO, every business needs a CEO, right? Every business needs somebody who's driving the business. If you're just not involved in the quote day-to-day, you still 100% have a job. It's just not time-oriented, but you still 100% have a job. But what you need is to make sure that you get your attention back. And the only way to get your attention back is to let someone else have the attention of running the business, which is making sure that you can then move up and then you can make your net worth, your portfolio, your assets, the one thing, right? And so, anywho, all of us have a woman in the red dress. Right? That $5 million year entrepreneur, all of us have that quick win that we want to have because we have some level of demand that's there. But you have to say no. At least that's my 2 cents. That's been my experience, is you have to say no until you get to the point where even when you start that new thing, right? Starting a new thing, you're not starting a new thing. You're assembling the team that's going to pursue this opportunity on your behalf. Think about the language behind that. You're not going to go start another business. You're going to go assemble a team that's going to pursue that opportunity because you think it's worth pursuing. Think about it that way, right? Or you acquire a business or a percentage of a business and then you help assist that team grow and pursue that opportunity. That is how owners speak versus CEOs, right? That is how you go from self-employed to owner. And most of us, especially younger entrepreneurs, and I'm not saying, I say younger not in terms of age, I just say in terms of experience, they're still self-employed. You're CEO, but you're still self-employed, right? And I think that if you can make that and you can swallow your pride about saying like, oh, I have this business, and you just realize that, then you'll be much more successful. So let's go back to the very beginning to wrap this puppy up. If you have lots of little things in your business and you have one big thing that's really the majority of your income, if you cut out all of these other things and make your business so simple, it would be unreasonable for you not to be successful. If you do that, then you probably will be successful because it would be unreasonable for you not to. But the thing is it's hard. Not because it's complicated, but because it forces us to go against our human nature. And I think if you can think about things like that, like Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, like they don't spend that much time working, right? They spend their time making good decisions, which doesn't take that much time. It just takes a lot of a lot of good discipline and character traits, right? And so if you look at what they do, if I think about that, like just because something is simple doesn't mean it's not the right call. Simple scales, fancy fails. And I will leave you with that. I can tell you right now, we make more money, like we make a lot of money right now, and we really don't do a ton. And it's because I had to change my beliefs about, like, we do these things because we have these interpersonal needs, we have these character traits, we have these deficiencies that we choose to fill with our business and our activities because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts. But if you can, let your business just continue to run and not go in and mess things up because you've gotten to that point and you've put, a CEO in place, you will be best served. And so, anyways, stop being so fancy, simple scales, fancy fails. And if you're not at that point, then be okay with not being at that point. Don't be too good to run your own business. Don't feel like, oh, I have to do what Alex is doing, because everything has to be done in sequence. Until you know how to get to owner, you shouldn't try and do that yet. So you'll be successful. So anyways, hope you enjoyed this. Confront the hard work. And the hard work, a lot of times, is simple work. It's simple decisions that we have to make. Don't take the quick wins. Think long, aggressive patience, macro perspective. And I think that will all ultimately be the better for it. At least these journals, these little vlogs are for me to write down the principles that have made, given us disproportionate returns. And I hope to share them with you. Mosey Nation, keeping awesome. Catch you next video. Bye.